show you guys so you can kind of get a feel for how this all works, and my computer decided to eat it. So I'm going to do my best. I mean, like, got some paper here, probably maybe draw some diagrams, I don't know. Maybe you'll get, like, the feel for what it is. So I can basically just start out telling you how that process works. We get the original Japanese animation along with a direct translation, and Funimation has an entire department of translators, and that's what they do all day, is they listen to it and write down what they hear, word for word, exactly what it is, and who's saying it, and they send it to us. So then I have the translation and a video, and it's our job to kind of figure out the personalities of these characters based on what we're reading and what we're observing in the animation. And Jamie Markey was my lead writer, so she has kind of the big responsibility of doing all the research, reading mangas, looking up online, trying to get as much information on who these characters are as possible. And then she passes that on to me, so my job is easy. I just look and see what she wrote, watch the video, it's great. Then we have a brief little meeting, discuss like some quirky, funny things we could do, because usually our team is the more creative team, the one that is responsible for coming up with probably the more original dialogue. We typically get the ones that aren't so specific to change as little as possible, because, I mean, you know, because me and Jamie are ridiculous. So they're like, who can punch this up a bit? Oh, those guys. So that's usually what happens with us. So we'll have a meeting and figure out like what we're gonna do with these characters, what extra stuff we're gonna add, what phrases. Jamie likes to have catchphrases for specific characters. And yeah, so we'll watch the video, translation, and then we decide how that we're going to translate it based on the meeting that we had previously. Another thing that goes into it is we have to write down all the reactions. So everything that you hear, all the breaths, all the punches, all the running, all the people in the background talking about peanut butter jelly, they don't really understand, but you know it's there. We have to write that. So it's kind of a process. And we do a thing called time coding, where we're watching the video and then there's this clock that's just like running, seconds, minutes, milliseconds, and then we stop it. Like every time somebody opens their mouth, every time somebody breathes, every time someone coughs, we stop the video and then write down what that code is. And that's how the actors know where to speak or breathe or hit somebody in the face. And yeah, that's basically the rundown of how that works. We're typically divided into, I think there's 5 teams, and it's just kind of like what the strengths are. Like Michael Tatum gets kind of like the bigger, more elaborate vocal, shows that have more like deeper characters. Jamie and I get Yamada's first time and things of that nature. So that's how that works. Yeah. Do you guys have any, like, are you here for a specific reason? Do you want to know stuff? Yes.
You had mentioned that you're talking about insert, like when you bring things around, you're seeing like what references you can work in, this and that, whatever. Do you keep an eye out for cultural references when you're working on things?
Yeah, if it translates into an American audience, like we'll know what that means, then we just leave it there. If it's very specific to the story, then we leave it there. If it's not any of those things, then we typically take it out or adjust it to where it will get the response that it's intended. So examples of that would be, if it's a specific Japanese movie that they're referencing and they're like quoting it for emphasis on like humor, then we'll probably change it to like an American movie that they're quoting, and because maybe our American audience doesn't know what that means and doesn't have the impact that we want it to. But as far far as like maybe Japanese foods or, you know, if our character is a manga fan of something very specific and it has something to do with their character, then we'll just leave that title in there. It's very rare that we change something, but as far as like references go, but those are the instances. If it needs it, if it's not like, you know, if it's not going to change who the character is, if it's not going to change the plot in any way, then we might alter it just for the humor's sake.
So I saw a Full Metal Jacket reference today in the Attack on Titan dub from the drill instructor, and I was so appreciative of it.
Oh, cool.
So,
Awesome. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. What references we're going to use, and you know, is it still going to be funny 10 years from now? You know, stuff like that. Yes.
What do you do when you run into phrases that are used a lot in Japanese, but when translated directly in English, they don't sound bad, like they don't sound good, like hisatsu or shikata ga nai, you know, stuff like that.
Datebayo.
Yeah.
If there's a direct translation for it, then we don't ever see it in its original Japanese form, so we see exactly what it's translated into. I mean, our job is to kind of make the anime appeal to an American audience, so we basically just take what it says and, I mean, make an American version of it. Yeah, because I can't remember any script that I've worked on that we left something that was specifically Japanese in there, but you know, I typically also don't have those types of scripts, so, but everything gets translated. We don't ever just like leave random Japanese in there, because then what's the point? Yes?
So back to that you write like the sound effects, or like when people get hit or hit, or you know, that those kind of like, is there like an industry standard for like how you spell that? Or
Yeah, there is. Like how you spell reactions, how you spell, how you spell all that. Yeah, those actually are coded. So, for instance, if you have a punch and your mouth is open, then we would script it like OM punch. And that's basically what it looks like. That's open mouth punch. Or if it's closed mouth, like CM. If it's clenched teeth, CT. If it's, see, there's clenched teeth, open mouth, closed mouth, and I think that's about it. So that's what it starts like, and then we describe how we're doing it. So if it's an enthusiastic punch, then it might just be like a ugh. If it's like a quiet punch, it would just be you know. So the actor kind of gets an idea based on the script, but then we also watch it too, so we know we're basically pretty good at watching what we're doing and not even paying attention to the reactions and just kind of going with what we see. So. But yeah, those are a pain in my butt to write. I hate them, all my heart and soul. It's like the most tedious part of writing a script is writing the reactions. I hate it. I don't recommend it to anyone. Yes?
So,
Roshi.
It doesn't matter.
Oh, sorry.
What about like pun humor? For instance, in One Piece there was a scene in the original Japanese Frankie's when he transforms, he says hentai, because hentai is like a double meaning in Japan that also means like metamorphosis or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you guys translated it, I thought was pretty clever. Instead, what he said was convert, which just sounded like pervert.
Oh, yeah.
So how often does pun humor show up, and you know, is that always that difficult to kind of work around? The joke comes from the actual syntax from the original Japanese.
It's basically exactly what you just said. We figure out what they're trying to do,
Yeah.
and we just do it in a way that makes sense to our audience. So yeah, if the intention is, oh, I misheard this word, it sounds like a different word, then we'll use a word that we get. And at first it was really hard, but we see it so much that we're just kind of used to it. It's just part of it. Yeah.
You ever, like, when you're writing something for an hour, I mean, do you ever have a situation where you're sitting there for like an hour or 2 hours and you can't figure anything out, you get your head against the wall, and you get your instances that's happening?
Any instances where I'm hitting my head against the wall because something is difficult to write?
Yeah, maybe not
awful. Yeah, there's one that I wrote on. I can't remember which one it was, because I think they changed the name, but it didn't make a whole lot of sense. And so I remember one of the guys that was writing with me, he kind of came in on the second part of the series, and he just like called me up. He's like, "Hey, I just want to make sure. I don't really understand what's happening. Is that normal?" I was like, "Yeah, dude, that's totally the show. Like, it doesn't make sense at all. You just kind of have to take the translation and just go with it and try to make it make sense." And those ones are awful. They take a long time, and it's like usually you don't really. I get a lot of rewrites on those because I'll do my best to try to figure out what they're trying to say and what that plot is supposed to be. So I'll write it. But then Jamie, who's watched the series from beginning to end and done like all the research that we don't necessarily have to because we're subwriters, she'll send it back and be like, "No, that's not what they're supposed to say. They're saying. I really don't understand what they're saying, but this is what I've decided they're saying, so this is what we're gonna do." And yeah, those are awful, and I hate them, and they stress my life. Don't like them. Yes. Yes, and luckily for Americans, we have a lot more words that we are able to use, and words that are shorter that say the same thing as a word that is longer. So yeah, that's just part of it. Is we have an amount of time we have to get an idea out. So if the mouth is doing this, you can't go any more than this. So you have to kind of figure out a way around that. Sometimes I can't fit the entire idea into just one mouth, and so I'll figure out a way within the scene to communicate what they're trying to say within that block of the scene. So instead of having idea A just come out in this person's mouth, it's like, well, what are you saying and you saying and you saying to get to this idea? And so this person who has more mouth flaps at the bottom will get to say exactly what we mean. But somehow the point will get across. It's a real weird way to write or adapt. Yes.
So you're talking about like kind of bizarre ones that don't really like have a flow or a plot that makes any sort of sense.
Yeah.
Your least favorite. What is your favorite alternative?
My favorite is something like Yama's First Time, where the characters are just so vibrant and the story is just kind of wacky. It's something that has characters that we can like. Because even if the story is not that great, well, then you still have somebody that you like and you enjoy taking them on this adventure and creating their personality. So that's basically what our job is to give the voice to the character. We're not there to write the story, but if we can, make the character fun, then our job is done. And that's so something that already has a base of good, funny characters that we can get attached to and grow with. Those are my favorites. Yama's First Time, y'all. Check it out. It's hilarious. So funny. Oh my god. Yes.
So what I've read and heard from professionals as far as getting work as a writer is that the most important thing is your own credits as a writer. I was hoping you could speak to the importance of that in your career and maybe for other people that you know who work in localization.
Sorry? You have to yell at me.
How important it is in your career and other people you know who work in localization to have had previous writing credits?
Oh, right, okay. Previous writing credits, how important that is. I think it's pretty important. I mean, if you don't know how to make sense with words, you probably shouldn't be putting words together for people to say.
Yeah, I was more curious about your own personal...
my history? I actually started college deciding I wanted to be in journalism, so I majored in it for like 2 years. But I've always written. It's just always been something that I've done ever since I was little, is write stories, write plays, and I didn't have a whole lot of experience per se at Funimation when I wanted to write, so they never took me seriously. I basically bullied my way into being a writer. Like, not even kidding, because I submitted to like the 3 head writers that were there, and they were just like, "Oh, we're full. You don't need any writers." And I was like, "Dude, no, yeah, you do. Like, you do. You just okay." So one time, a friend of mine was on the writing staff, and he didn't like to be on the writing staff. He was just kind of a stringer, which is kind of like the person that gets leftovers. And he was moaning about having to write this script, and I was like, dude, if you don't want to write the script, here's the deal for you. Let me write the script, and you turn it in. If they like it, you keep all the money. All you gotta do is tell them that I wrote it, and that they should hire me. And he's like, all right, what if they don't like it? I was like, you still keep the money, just don't tell them I wrote it. Just in case I can get better, and then I'll, try this again. So yeah, I turned it in, and they really liked it, and it was Eric Vale at the time who hired me. And so he called, and he was like, so yeah, I heard what you did, and it was actually really good. So, and he explained that most people that submit scripts to him, they suck, and he just doesn't have time to review a crappy script. But he read mine, and it was great. And he's like, so you seem to really have a talent for, I don't know, writing dialogue. He's like, the dialogue was really strong, and I'm not used to that. And we have a show that's pretty heavy character, a lot of dialogue, and it needs a very realistic sound. Would you be interested in taking over Peach Girl? And I was like, yeah, yes. So that's how that happened. But it wouldn't have happened if I didn't, you will hire me. Yeah, usually I think if you kind of have to know somebody who knows somebody, and at the time I didn't really know anybody. Yes?
So you're saying it's more crucial to network than it is to have writing credits. It's more about who you know
Oh,
and who's capable.
absolutely. Like in entertainment industry, across the board, hands down, it's who you know, it's your networking, it's right place, right time. I mean, there's so many people that are better writers than me, that are better voice actors than me, that don't have the opportunity because they don't know the right people, or they're not in Dallas, Texas, or they're not, So it's 100% about networking and being there and just getting in people's faces. And even if you feel like it's not gonna make a difference, it totally does. My other job is I work at a production house, and we do like commercial and product video, and it takes a lot of effort for us to find talent. So when there's an actor or a model who just happens to send out their headshot on a card, like a greeting card, and we go to the mail, and it's like, oh crap, I've got to cast that today. Yeah, that'll work, I'll call her, So it's literally just about networking and being smart about how you do things, because everybody does things the traditional way. I think my way for everything has always been go around the back door. I don't think there's anything I've achieved without doing that. Yeah. Yes. Here, in front of me, red.
Usually, how long does it usually take to write a whole series?
How long does it take to write a whole series? Probably takes a couple months, because the series is between 12 and 6 episodes. Sorry, 12 and 26. Big difference. And it's split among at least 3 or 4 people writing this. So we're all hammering out about like 1 or 2 scripts a week. Yeah, it's about like a month or 2 months, depending on how long it is. The longest one, I think it took me about a year to write Suzuka, because there were 25, and I went back and like redid most of the episodes that were previously done. So, and it was just me, like I was it. But yeah, usually, I think that's why they're like, we should probably put more people in these properties. We don't want to wait a year to get your scripts out. So yeah, it's like 2 months, 2-3 months. Yes. How much Japanese have I picked up? The stuff that I hear over and over again, like the stressmas, arigato, and stuff like that, that everybody uses constantly. I picked those up, but as far as I could never just have a conversation in Japanese. I would like to, but it's mostly about I listen to the tone, and I also watch a lot of it on mute because I'm focusing on putting things in the mouth. But yeah, Caitlin knows Japanese. I want to learn Japanese someday. Yes, Vince.
Do you ever, in some cases, get 3 or 4 people working in like serious writing for it? I mean, obviously that, require you guys all have to be pretty much in sync with each other. But people also have their own styles, and they're like, maybe not dating. Like, do you ever have this thing where you butt heads with someone, like, I want to do it this way, I want to do it that way? Does that not happen?
Do I butt heads with people that we write with because our styles are different? I don't, because that's not my job to do it, but JB Markey, who's the head writer, that is her job. So she's up here, and then there's usually me and like one other person, and she reads all of our scripts, and she gives the notes, and she kind of tells us what she likes and what she doesn't like. And I know I've heard her gripe about specific people, just that they're writing a 16-year-old girl, and it doesn't sound like a 16-year-old girl, and this person would never use that dialogue, and so she gets real fiery about that kind of stuff. But I just do me and turn it in, and I'm fine. So, yes.
What has arguably been one of the hardest scripts for you to write?
One of the hardest scripts for me to write was One Piece. I did it once, and then I never did it again. It was really, really hard because it's it's such a huge show, and so when they stick you on episode 100 and you haven't been watching it the whole time, it's really hard to just like, okay, I don't know what that means. Google. Okay, I still don't know what that means. I'm gonna go watch this episode. That was really, really hard. And also the mouths. Have you seen those mouths? They're like nom-noms, is what we call them. That's all it looks like. Nom, 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 nom. Like what? And sometimes it's like nom, nom. So you gotta figure out like, do you say nom, nom? Or do you, do stuff like this and fill it quickly? I mean, no. In One Piece, there's one episode. I think there might be 2 episodes that I wrote on One Piece. And then I think I was under Eric Bale at the time, and he was like, we're gonna go ahead and hold off on that. Here's a girl show. So, One Piece, difficult. And then there was another one, I think it was, You Without Wings? I think I did like a sub on that. I think I only did like 1 episode of that because it was like, John Bergman was like, here, do this. We don't have anything else. Do this one. And so it made no sense. I didn't understand it. The characters were weird. So there's just one of those. So those 2. Don't watch those for the writing. Watch them for everything else. For my episodes anyway. Anyone else?
So you mentioned getting stuck on girl shows. I know that a lot of shows are very male-centric.
Mm-hmm.
And being a female writer, or a female head writer, do they like to give you more female characters that sound more realistic? Is that kind of balance you have with writing men and
Yes and no. I have a difficult time writing very fantasy-like men. Like, dudes that are in armor and they've got superpowers and stuff. That's real hard for me, but if it's a realistic guy or a realistic girl, like Suzuka, for instance, I wrote the crap out of Todd's lines. Like, I love that, and Rob's lines, because I kind of knew guys like that. You have those kinds of friends, and you know those personalities, and you've heard them before, so you just kind of morph yourself into those people and respond accordingly. So those are fine. But the more anime-ish dudes, those are hard, and I don't think I've ever had them besides, One Piece. But they usually, John Bernard is pretty good about grouping people with their strengths, so. An unrealistic woman? Seki Ray wrote some stuff, and that was fun. But it did take a little more effort to just kind of research the type of speak and the kind of realm that they were in at certain times. It just took longer. It was fun to do. It just wasn't as flowy. Because usually with the ones that are more realistic sounding, it's literally just being an actor and responding as if like, okay, cool. This is what I would say if I was trying to communicate this phrase in this situation. So those come out really quickly, but everything else just takes a little bit more effort. And I know that's not the case for some of the dude writers on the staff, so he just kind of goes with who can get out the fastest and the best. And that's not me. So, yeah.
Hey, do you have any fellow coworkers that you really admire their writing, and does it inspire you to improve on everything you do?
Are there any fellow coworkers I have whose writing inspires me to improve? I kind of think I'm awesome. Like, I literally just sit there and go, it would have been so much better if I had written that. Like, I'm not even kidding, it's horrible, but like, I feel that way a lot of times. And so does Jamie. Like, we both are just like, we should have wrote that. We would have done better. That would have been better. But, yeah, and that's kind of like why I decided I wanted to get into the writing, because I would read the scripts that I was voicing, and I was like, that's how you said that line? Oh my gosh, there were so many other ways to communicate this idea. So that's why I kind of like bullied my way into doing it. But who was good? Someone's good. There was a guy that when I was directing, Blair Underwood, he wrote Tower of Draga, and he was good. Because when I was doing the research for that show, it's a real funny, quirky show. I wrote John Bergmeyer and I was like, dude, I'm directing this, can I please write it? Because it needs to be hilarious. And he was like, no, I've already assigned it to somebody. So I cried, and then I got the scripts, and I was extremely impressed. He did such a good job. So Blair Underwood is really good. And Jared Hedges is actually really, really good. So those two, I would say. And then, you know, I'm a close third. Just kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah.
What would you say differences are, or different aspects of prose versus
Different aspects of prose and scriptwriting?
yeah.
Like the positive points, or? Yeah. I mean, are you talking about like just like script writing versus anime writing, or? Oh, right. I don't. If one built off the other? Built off, like, so one script built off the other? Or? Oh, okay, gotcha. Well, when you write the way we're writing, it's definitely a different format. I mean, when you have a screenplay, it's all, you know, original writing, and it's, you know, there's no amount of time that you have to say a line in. You can just kind of let the actor do their thing, whereas we have to just be really